This episode is about hope and planning during the coldest month. Hey there, listeners and garden lovers. If you're listening to this in January, chances are you're staring out at a frozen landscape, dreaming of fresh tomatoes, crispy lettuce, and pops of wildflower color. Well, guess what? Your gardening season doesn't have to wait until spring. Today, we're talking about the magic of indoor seed starting, specifically what you can and should be planting right now in January if you're living in a cold climate. Whether you're a complete beginner or you've tried this before with mixed results, we're going to walk you through everything the best vegetables, herbs, and flowers to start indoors this month, the equipment you actually need, and what you can skip, how to tell when your seedlings are ready for the next step, and my favorite topic, succession planting for continuous harvest all season long. So grab your favorite beverage, get cozy, and let's turn your windowsill or basement into a productive nursery. Welcome, witches, pagans, heathens, spiritualists, and anyone interested in living sustainably. This is
Old Ways, New Days, where the old ways meet the good dirt.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Nell. And each week we explore the sacred art of living close to the land. From compost to covens, chickens to charms,
We're reclaiming self-sufficiency, seasonal living, and ancestral wisdom.
whether you're stirring your cauldron or your soup pot,
This is a space for wild-hearted folk walking the homesteading path with intention, magic, and muddy boots. Welcome back, listeners. This is Kayla. Today is going to be a solo episode as Nell, unfortunately, is sick again, along with her boyfriend. Their household is just a giant household of sick and illness, and they can stay where they are. So it is just me. There will be no fun banter, but there might be some kitty meows as I have two four-legged friends with me in the podcast office today. So first, let's talk about why we want to start, or why January is such a crucial month for indoor seed starting, especially in cold climates. I'm talking zones 3 through 6, where your last frost date is typically mid-April to late May. Many vegetables need 8 to 12 weeks of growth before they're ready to transplant outdoors. If you wait until March or April to start seeds, you're missing out on those precious early season harvests. Starting in January gives your plants a head start, so when your last frost date arrives, you've got strong, healthy transplants ready to hit the ground running. Plus, let's be honest, January can be a tough month. The holidays are over, it's dark and cold, and spring feels like a distant dream. Starting seeds indoors is incredibly therapeutic. There's something about watching those first green shoots emerge that reminds us that winter doesn't last forever. All right, let's talk equipment. I'm going to be real with you. You don't need to spend a fortune, but there are a few key items that will dramatically increase your success rate. Here are your must-haves. Grow lights. This is non-negotiable, especially for January seed starting. Even that sunny south-facing window does not provide enough light during winter's short days. Your seedlings, they will get leggy and weak, what we call exfoliated, reaching desperately for inadequate light. The best and most recommended, obviously, are LED full spectrum grow lights. They're energy efficient, don't generate excessive heat, and provide the light spectrum plants need. But let's be honest, lights marketed specifically as quote unquote grow lights can come with a hefty price tag. If you would rather go for a cheaper option, standard light bulbs listed as daylight spectrum bulbs ranging from 5,000 to 6,000 Ks, they will do in a pinch, but they do lack the full spectrum of light, especially the red and blue wavelengths needed for leaf and flower production. But whichever way you go for lighting, you will want your bulbs, or your lights actually, to be 2 to 4 inches above your seedlings. And they should be on for 14 to 16 hours per day. Yes, timers are your friends here. So purchase a very good timer. Your budget here will be anywhere between $30 to $100 depending on your setup size. And it is recommended about 1 to 2 bulbs depending on the size of your grow tray. Seed starting mix, I know we've covered this in a previous episode, so if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, go back and listen to when and how to start seeds for a bountiful harvest. You do not use garden soil or regular potting soil. You need a sterile, lightweight seed starting mix, usually a blend of peat moss or coconut coir, perlite, and vermiculite. This prevents damping off disease and gives those tiny roots an easy medium to grow in. Budget is anywhere from $10 to $20 for a large bag. Seed trays or containers. You can buy proper seed starting trays with cells or get creative with yogurt cups, egg cartons, or any container with drainage holes. You can even make drainage holes in a container that you feel will be substantial for your needs. I've used the 72 cell seed starting trays. I've used the smaller 12 or 24. I forget the smaller sized ones. But they are reusable. You just have to remember to take care of them. Mine from last year unfortunately got destroyed when I had my roof redone and the roofers trampled them. So I will have to be buying new ones this year. But expect a budget between $5 to $15 for these. You can buy like a full package deal where they come with the soil discs already in them. That kind of gives you, two items for one purchase. Humidity dome or plastic wrap. Seeds need constant moisture and humidity to germinate. A clear plastic dome or even a plastic wrap over your containers creates a mini greenhouse effect. Just be sure to keep an eye on your dirt and your seedlings for mold growth due to lack of airflow and too much moisture. Back to those seed trays that you can get. Those also, if you do the all-in-one, come with a dome already there for you. So that is, if you're trying to grow on a budget, those seed starting trays that come with the dirt pellets are probably your best bet for a cheaper budget. They come with everything that you need. Now, here are your nice to haves. A heat mat. These go under your seed trays. They warm the soil up to 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which speeds up germination significantly. Most homes are cooler than ideal for seed starting, especially if your setup is in a basement or you only have a northern facing window, or a larger home like me where it's a little harder to heat. Heat mats are especially important for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. But be forewarned, if you have four-legged family members, like I do, make sure you place your heat mat and trays in an area that is inaccessible. My older kitty cat, the last time I had a heat mat, before I destroyed it last season, decided that the seed tray with the heat mat was the perfect snoozing kitty nap spot. And anything that tried to germinate was immediately squashed by her tiny little elderly body. So, be cautious about your pets if you have them and your heat mats if you decide to go that route. Budgeting on a heat mat can range from $20 to $40, again, depending on how many seed trays that you decide to set up and how many plants you decide that you want to grow that require that specific type of temperature for germination. Oscillating fan. Once seedlings emerge, gentle air circulation strengthens stems and prevents fungal disease. Running a small fan on low, not pointed directly at seedlings, can create gentle air movement that allows for a good circulation of air that does not necessarily dry out the seedlings, but does prevent mold growth and other fungal diseases from happening. You can buy the little tiny round ones, like an old-fashioned office desk fan, for probably like $5. Estimate budget is $15 to $25, depending again on how many seeds you'd like to start and what kind of fan you can find in your area. A spray bottle or a bottom watering tray. Seedlings are delicate. A spray bottle lets you water gently without disturbing seeds or knocking over tiny plants. Alternatively, bottom watering trays let plants wick up moisture without waterlogging. Budget anywhere from $5 to $10. So let's get into the actual nitty-gritty, why you're here, what to germinate, what to sow, what to plant, can you grow starting in January. And this is where it would be nice to have Nell for the additional commentary. The fun of a solo podcast. All right, now for the fun part. What should you actually be planting this month? Remember, these are only suggestions. Plant what you like to eat. If there's something on this list that you don't like or are allergic to, don't plant it. Also, the information for germination rates is also an estimate and never a guarantee. If there is a vegetable, herb, or flower that we do not list and you want to start indoors this month, instructions should be listed on the back of the seed packet. So, category 1, the long season superstars, onions and leeks. These you want to start in early January. We are already halfway through the month, so sorry, a little late for that. That should have been last week. These need 10 to 12 weeks indoors. Start them now for transplanting in early April. They're incredibly easy. They look like little grass shoots at first, and they're nearly foolproof. Germination time is 7 to 14 days at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And I realize I should probably let people know what the Celsius is. Let's see here, Fahrenheit. Okay. Germination time, 7 to 14 days at 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius for our foreign, non-North American listeners. All right, the next plant would be celery and celeriac. This can be started now, mid-January. These are slow growers. They take 12 to 14 weeks before transplanting. Celery has extremely tiny seeds, so you do not bury them. You just kind of lightly press them into the soil surface. They need light to germinate. Germination time is 14 to 21 days at 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, so 21 to 23 degrees Celsius. The category 2 vegetables are your warm season favorites, tomatoes. These you want to start late January to early February. The crown jewel of indoor seed starting, tomatoes need 6 to 8 weeks indoors. If you start them too early, they will outgrow their space and become root bound. For a mid-May transplant date, start seeds in late January. Germination time is 5 to 10 days at 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius. Peppers. You can start these early to mid-January. Peppers are slower than tomatoes. They need 8 to 10 weeks indoors. They also germinate more slowly and can be fussier. A heat mat really helps here. Germination time is 7 to 21 days at 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be 26 to 29 degrees Celsius. They love it warm. Eggplant is also a mid-January starter, similar to peppers. 8 to 10 weeks indoors. They also need that warm soil to germinate and grow best with consistent warmth. So you want to keep them on that heat mat, even as the first seedlings pop. All right, category 3, your cool season crops. So these are plants that you can transplant out before your first frost date because they kind of like those cooler temperatures. And they tend to bolt or flower and die off and go to seed when it gets too hot. So these would be your broccolis, your cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. These you can start late January to early February. These cole crops need 5 to 7 weeks indoors. They can handle cooler conditions and will actually transplant outdoors a bit earlier before your last frost date. As I already mentioned, they are very cold hardy. Germination time is 5 to 10 days at 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Lettuce, you wanted to do succession plantings every 2 to 3 weeks starting in late January. Lettuce is fast. Only 4 to 6 weeks from seed to transplant size, so start small batches every few weeks for a continuous harvest. And lettuce is also one of those lovely vegetables where you don't have to pull the whole plant. You can just cut off what you want to eat that day, and it will continue growing. Germination time for lettuce is 2 to 7 days. It's very quick at 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Herbs are some of the most rewarding things to start indoors. Many are slow from seed, so January is perfect. Rosemary, you want to start that early January. Notoriously slow and finicky to germinate. It can take 15 to 30 days to germinate. So be patient with your rosemary. You want to pre-soak your seeds for 24 hours before planting to improve those germination rates. Thyme and oregano can be started anywhere from early to mid-January. These Mediterranean herbs need 8 to 10 weeks indoors. They germinate in 10 to 20 days and love warmth. Basil, you can start in late January to early February. Basil is warm season and fairly quick with 6 to 8 weeks indoors. Don't start too early or you'll have giant basil plants outgrowing their space. But again, like lettuce, most herbs can just be trimmed as you need them. Germination time for basil is 5 to 10 days at 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Parsley, you can start in early January. Parsley is notoriously slow to germinate, taking 14 to 28 days. Soak seeds overnight before planting to speed things up. It needs 10 to 12 weeks indoors. And cilantro, for those of you who can eat cilantro and it doesn't taste like soap, it is fast growing, only 4 to 6 weeks needed indoors. You can definitely do successive plantings every 2 to 3 weeks as cilantro bolts very quickly. For starting wildflower seeds indoors, you want to focus on cool season natives specific to your area and early bloomers that need a long germination or growing period, such as coneflower, echinacea, bee balm, which is monarda, columbine, equigalia, I'm going to butcher these Latin names, milkweed, asclepias, penstemon, which is also beard tongue, pansies or violas, snapdragons, lobelia, and sweet peas. Flowers not only add pops of color to your garden, but offer incentives to bees and other pollinators to stop by for a snack, which includes the flowers on your vegetables. More pollinators means a bigger harvest for you. Okay, this is where a lot of beginners get confused, so let's break it down. Let's understanding your seedling growth. You have your cotyledons, your first leaves, and your true leaves. When your seeds first germinate, the very first leaves you see are not true leaves. These are called cotyledons, or seed leaves. They're the embryonic leaves that were stored inside the seed. They usually look different from the plant's regular leaves, often smooth, rounded, or oval shaped. For example, tomato cotyledons are smooth and oval, but tomato true leaves, the ones that emerge next, are jagged and compound with that distinctive tomato leaf shape. Why does this matter? Because you need to wait for true leaves before certain care steps. Fertilizing. Don't fertilize until plants have their first set of true leaves. Before that, they're living off the nutrients stored in the seed. Once true leaves appear, start with a diluted liquid fertilizer, half strength, once a week. Transplanting. If you started seeds in small cells or crowded conditions, wait until plants have 2 to 3 sets of true leaves before transplanting to larger containers. Thinning. If multiple seeds germinate in one cell, wait for true leaves to appear, then snip off the weaker seedlings at soil level. Don't pull them, or you'll disturb the roots of the ones you're keeping. And then you'll lose the whole batch, and that was all that time and energy wasted. Now, how to identify true leaves? Look for leaves that match the mature plant's characteristics. True leaves come after the cotyledons and emerge from between them. They're usually more detailed with serrations, lobes, or compounded leaflets. The timeline of this, most seedlings developed their first true leaves 7 to 14 days after germination, depending on the crop and conditions. All right, now let's talk about one of my favorite strategies, succession planting. This technique ensures you're not harvesting everything at once, where you have an overabundance of produce that you cannot eat or, make into something or store or process or give away fast enough, and then you're left with nothing and a gap of emptiness. So what is succession planting? Instead of starting all of your lettuce seeds on the same day in January, you start a small batch, say 12 plants. I know that seems a lot, but just hear me out. 2 weeks later, you start another batch of 12 plants, or 12 seeds. 2 weeks after that, another batch. This way you have lettuce maturing at different times throughout spring and summer, giving you a continuous supply rather than 50 heads of lettuce ready on the same day. Because what are you going to do with 50 heads of lettuce all ready to be harvested and eaten on, let's say, June 1st? Because I may like salads and I may like lettuce, but I can't eat 50 heads of lettuce. And lettuce you can't really do anything with except give it away or put it in your compost. Unless you have rabbits, I guess. And remember, just because you're planting 12 seeds at a time in succession doesn't mean you're going to have 12 plants planted in succession at the end when you're actually transplanting them outside, because you are going to pare down and weed out the weaker ones, and you are going to lose some because they just didn't like the transplanting process, or they didn't get enough water, or they didn't get enough sun. You will not end up with 50 plants or 48 by the time you are done going through all the process and getting them into the ground up to harvest point. So while the example sounds scary of planting 12 lettuce seeds at a time, 2 weeks apart, that is just an example and maybe a good idea. But trial and error, that's the only way we can go about it. Anyway, off topic. Okay. Best crops for succession planting started indoors in January include lettuce. starting new batches every 2 to 3 weeks from late January through March. Spinach, which is similar to lettuce, also another cold hardy lettuce leaf plant, every 2 to 3 weeks. Basil, you can start a new tray every 3 to 4 weeks from late January through March for continuous fresh basil all summer. Cilantro, this one bolts quickly in heat, so succession planting every 2 weeks is essential if you want fresh cilantro all season. Broccoli and cabbage, start a batch in late January, then another in mid-February. This gives you harvests in early summer and again in fall. Planning your succession calendar. Grab a calendar or a planner, and I think this is something Nell and I might talk about together when she is healthier, and we might come up with one for you listeners that you can, have from us, because I think that's important. It would be a journal / gardening calendar. I don't know. We have to talk. Anyway, mark your average last frost date. Let's say May 15th. And then you work backwards based on how many weeks each crop needs indoors. Tomatoes need 6 to 8 weeks, so you want to start February 15th through March 1st. Lettuce is 4 to 6 weeks, so start March 1st, then March 15th, then April 1st. Peppers are 8 to 10 weeks. Start in January 15th through April 1st. Then plan your outdoor succession plantings too. Some crops, like lettuce and spinach, can be direct seeded outdoors in succession every 2 weeks once soil is workable. So here are some common mistakes and how to troubleshoot those, because let's talk about what can go wrong, because trust me, we've all been there, and if you're new to this and you haven't, then let me share what I've learned from myself and from other people. Leggy seedlings. This means not enough light, or the lights are too far away. Your seedlings are stretching toward inadequate light, resulting in tall, weak, spindly plants. The solution for this is to move your lights closer, 2 to 4 inches above your seedlings, and ensure that they are getting 14 to 16 hours of light daily. This is in addition to any natural light that you may have for them. Damping off disease. Seedlings suddenly collapse and die at the soil line. This fungal disease thrives in overly wet, poorly ventilated conditions. Prevention for this would be to use sterile seed starting mix, not to overwater, providing air circulation with a fan, and avoiding overcrowding. So don't put too many seeds in one cell. Maybe only 2 or 3 seeds if they're enough, really tiny, or 1 seed if it's like a bean. Seeds not germinating. Check these 3 things. Temperature. Most seeds need 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Some need warmer. Moisture. Soil should be consistently moist, but not soggy. And seed age. How long have you had that seed packet? I know I've had some seed packets for 10 years now, because I just haven't gotten around to using them up. It's just been me for a long time, and I don't eat a lot, so I don't need to grow a lot. And now that I have a fiance and I'm sharing all this wealth of knowledge, and I have neighbors that I love to share things with, I will be growing more. And I'm, with the homesteading podcast, I want to live what I preach. So I will be doing more preserving and canning and wanting to share that with you. So I will be growing more, which means I'll be using those older seed packets. But older seeds have a lower germination rate, and the use of a heat mat also for warm, loving crops. If you're not using that for your tomatoes or the nightshade vegetables, so your nightshade vegetables would be your potatoes, the white ones, not sweet potatoes. Potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, specifically bell And eggplants. Those are all your nightshade vegetables. They love warm. They love the heat on their feet. So the roots. So in order for them to germinate and for them to grow and gain all the strength they need to produce the fruit later on in the season, you need that heat mat. Seedlings turning yellow. Usually means they need fertilizer. Once true leaves appear, start feeding weekly with diluted liquid fertilizer. Root-bound plants. If you start seeds too early, roots can outgrow their containers and circle around themselves. Solution would be to transplant to larger pots, sometimes referred to as potting up, or time your seed starting better. If, life gets away from you and you just forgot to, and let your plants just grow and grow and grow, and you find that the roots did circle around inside the containers, they will continue to grow in that circular pattern when you take them out and put them in a larger pot, or even in the ground or in your garden box, whatever your garden situation is set up. You will want to square them up. So you'll want to cut that circular formation into a square. What this does is this forces the plant to produce new roots that will grow outward instead of continuing to circle in on itself and strangle itself. And that will help make the plant and the root system a lot stronger going forward. There you have it, listeners. So a quick recap. January is the month to start planning and planting indoors if you live in a cold climate. Or even if you don't live in a cold climate, I suppose you could be planting and sowing your seeds. Get your grow light set up, grab some seed starting mix, and start those slow growers like onions, leek, peppers, and perennial herbs and flowers. Remember, cotyledons first, true leaves second. Wait for those true leaves before fertilizing or transplanting, and embrace succession planting. Starting small batches every few weeks means continuous harvest and less overwhelm when it comes time to harvest. And most importantly, have fun. Have fun with this. Indoor seed starting is part science, part art, and totally forgiving. Every year, you'll learn something new. You'll find something different to do and a new way to do it, and you'll figure out what works for you in your living situation, in your home or apartment or wherever it is, that you live. You will find what works for you, but you won't do it if you don't start. So if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. It really helps other homesteaders find the show. And if you have questions, or if you want to tell us your success stories, your failure stories, your funny, this is what happened in my garden story, please send us a message either by email or Facebook messengers. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to share our listener stories in an episode. We would love to get a bunch of those together and just have an entire episode of listener stories. Until next time, this has been Old Ways, New Days. Keep growing, because before anything grows above ground, it begins